First reactions to Rupert Sanders' bloody new adaptation of The Crow are rolling in, and it doesn't seem like the remake is going to take flight. As of the making of this video, it has an abysmal 19% Rotten Tomatoes critics score, which is not entirely unexpected for a movie that was controversial before it was ever even made. The root of the Crow remake skepticism harkens back to the original film's tragic production, during which rising star Brandon Lee was killed in a gun-related accident that fueled speculation of a curse on the film. Superstition aside, fans of Lee, and of the original film, have been vocal for years about their disinterest in another The Crow adaptation, even as multiple sequels have been released to little fanfare. Sanders' version has been years in the making, as several filmmakers have been unsuccessful in their attempts to readapt James O'Barr's comic book series origin story over the past 2 decades. Of course, critics seeing the film must attempt to cordon off all that baggage to review the 2024 version of The Crow on its own merits. Unfortunately, it sounds like the film might fail by that standard, too. Slash Film's own Whitney Seibold isn't pulling any punches with his review of the film, which he calls dull, lifeless, and meaningless. He's not alone in that assessment. On X, Bloody Disgusting's Megan Navarro wrote, "Just bonded with a complete stranger at my screening of The Crow over how empty and soulless it is. Didn't even see his face in the dark. We just instantly commiserated over the hot mess that was this movie as soon as the credits hit." Words like soulless, lifeless, and empty come up more than once in this initial wave of reviews, with Livy Scott even calling Sanders a master of empty allure in her inverse write-up. Scott added, "It's almost ironic how such a soulful concept can be damned by a lack of material." Critics also cite an unexpected issue with The Crow. It apparently doesn't make sense. Seibold writes that the movie lacks clarity, explaining, "Thanks to sloppy editing and a general lack of basic storytelling acumen, events speed past without much explanation, emotional resonance, or in some scenes, basic communication." Over at The Wrap, William Bibiani says something similar, writing, "This new remake takes the simplest story in the world and makes its plot and the mythology weirdly complicated, to the point that it all becomes total nonsense. It's got perplexing rules and a vague chronology, and nothing seems like it matters anymore." Pacing issues are also mentioned frequently in these and similar reviews. The film apparently takes its sweet time getting to the resurrection story comic fans know and love, instead spending time, as Rolling Stone's David Fear writes, focusing on, quote, "a cross between a faux erotic perfume commercial and outtakes from a failed young adult series." If you're still itching to go see The Crow, don't despair yet. Despite its apparent problems, the film has its fans. Critic and writer Reina Cervantes notes on X that she absolutely loved the film, describing it as a modern gothic romance that plays like Twilight for scumbags. Complimentary. Critics who did seem to like the film tend to bring up its performances, as well as the strong love story angle the remake takes. Both lead actors are getting some praise in reviews so far, with Rolling Stone singling out Bill Skarsgård, writing, "Skarsgård can do live action hero and skin-crawling nightmare fodder with equal amounts of ease."
"I'm gonna kill them. Every single one of them."
The film's violence is mentioned in most early reviews, though whether or not the gore-soaked movie is made better by it seems to be for each audience member to decide. At Mashable, Christy Puchko calls it an ultra-violent spectacle that is at times hard to stomach, much less watch. And Dennis Harvey of Variety writes, "Even when the violence is very hard R, there's little sense of lurid pulp jollies being had. It's satisfying enough, but has a semi-detached effect." Initial critical responses to The Crow may be largely negative, but it's clear from the positive ones that the film has enough going on to attract some audience members while repelling others. In other words, it already sounds like it has the makings of a cult favorite.